Hey, how's it going, bros? Today I'm going to show you guys how to fly an airplane on X-Plane 11. So if you just downloaded this flight simulator X-Plane 11 and you know nothing about flight simulators and you want to know how to fly an airplane, this video is for you. I'm going to show you just the basic of what you need to know to fly an airplane. So this is just the basic, and then you will be able to take off, follow an flight plan, and then you will be able to land the airplane as well. And I will show you guys in this video how to land an airplane using ILS, which is short for Instrument Landing System. Instrument landing system is a procedure you do when you have a foggy weather and you are not able to see anything ahead. Your visibility is zero, and then you need to land the airplane. You cannot land the airplane visually. You need to land it using the instruments on your cockpit. So you need to make an instrument landing system, land the airplane using the instruments. So I'll show you guys in this video how to do that, how to perform that maneuver. So when you open your X-Plane 11, you will see this screen here. So you're going on new flight, and then in here you can choose your airplane. So today I'm going to show you guys how to fly a Boeing 737 like this one here. You can customize it and choose a skin for it. I will go with KLM today, and then you come here, new flight. Alright, Boeing 737 by KLM, and then in here you will choose your airport for your departure airport, the airport in which you will take off. In this case, I will choose, let me see, it's so hard to choose because I want to make a short flight in order for this video not be so long. London Airport, London, hit OK. So I will take off from London Heathrow Airport and fly to London City Airport, because this is a very short flight. These two airports, they are really close from each other. So today I'm taking off from London Heathrow Airport, and in here there is something you definitely need to know, which is the ID of the airport. Every and each airport, they have an ID. ID is the identification, I think. So it's a code that tells the airplane which airport the airplane are flying to. So you need to know the ID of your airport. In this case, I'm taking off from London Heathrow, which the ID is EGLL. So I will write this on my hand. EGLL. And my destination airport is going to be the airport with the ID London City, with the ID EGLC. So remember, you really need to know the ID, and to know it, you can research on the internet, you can Google it, or in this flight simulator, it shows you the ID in this by the side of the airport name. So you have the airport name, and then on the side you have the ID. So write this ID and take note of the ID, write it down, because you will need it later. Okay, now you have your airport of destination. You have your departure airport, which is going to be London. Now you can choose weather. You can customize your weather. We have clear, little bit of clouds, little more clouds, and then overcast, and then low visibility, foggy weather, and we have stormy weather. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to show scattered. I think that's how to pronounce this word. Okay, we have this weather here. It's more or less of clouds. Clouds, more or less, so. Okay, you can choose the time of the day. In this case, I'm going to take off by the sunrise, 6 a.m. Alright, now we have the time of day set. We set the weather, and then you need to set your departure airport, in this case London Heathrow. And to choose your airport of departure, you only need to click on it and let it selected, just like in here, just like here. You keep it selected, and then you have your airplane, Boeing 737. Today I'm going to show you guys how to fly a Boeing 737. And just to remember you, each and every airplane, they are different. They are different from each other. The airplanes by Boeing, they usually are similar, and they are different, really different from the airplanes by Airbus. So Airbus airplanes are different of Boeing airplanes. So if you want to learn how to fly an Airbus, you have many tutorials on the YouTube as well. So, but in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to fly a Boeing 737, which is a very easy airplane to fly. Even though I like this Boeing 787 more, because they are really technological airplane. Boeing 787 and Airbus A350, those are my favorite airplanes. But in this video, because we don't have the 787, I will show you guys how to fly the 737, which is a great airplane as well. I'm not complaining about it. I like it as well, but my favorite ones are the 787 and the Airbus A350. That's it. So now let's get started. So after you select your airplane, after you select your airport and your weather and time of day, you just click on Start Flight, and then it will load. So guys, alright, and I will show you guys how easy it is. Really easy to fly an airplane. Of course, in real life it's way more complex than this, but in flight simulators, if you want to fly an airplane properly, just like real pilots do, it's not so difficult. It's not so difficult. And it's something that is kind of difficult. It's to communicate with the air traffic controller, because in this case, especially in the case of this flight simulator, it takes a technical knowledge to know how to contact the air traffic controller, because they ask things that I don't know how to use. For example, they ask for bores, which is random points in the under the air that is used for radio communication with the airplane. So they ask this kind of technical things, this kind of technical stuff that I don't know how to use. So in this video, I'm not showing you guys how to communicate with air traffic control. But in the last version of this Explain 11, it's easier to communicate with the air traffic controller. It's way easier. But in the case of this version specifically, it's really complicated. So I'm not showing you guys today how to communicate with air traffic controller. But if you have the last version of Explain, then it's not so difficult. In this video, I will show you guys how to set your autopilot, the autopilot in the airplane, which is pretty easy as well. No major problems with autopilot as well. Autopilot is very useful because when you take off, you don't want to control the airplane manually all the flight long, because it would be very tight. It would make you really tired because some flights they last like, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 hours. It's many hours. So you don't want to control the airplane manually all these hours. So after you take off, only thing you need to do is to press a button, turn on the autopilot, and that's it. The airplane will fly itself to the destination. And then when you are close to your destination, it starts to control the airplane once again. Of course, in real life, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's almost the same. It's almost like the airplane flying itself by itself all the way long. It's technological stuff. It's really impressive. So let's get started. This load is little bit it lasts a little bit too long, because I think it is because I'm recording the screen, but it's not used to be that long. So guys, let me just change the sound, the radio sound. I think now it's better. Okay, so that's our cockpit. That's the Boeing 737 cockpit. So I'm not going to tell you guys about all the instruments right now, because you know it would make the video last too long. I'm just worried about the. Alright, I'm sorry for that. I was turning the audio lower. Alright, so that's our cockpit. This Boeing 737 cockpit. And then I will show you guys in this video only the things you need to know how to fly the airplane. I'm not going to show you guys everything, because it would make the video too long. So just the basic you need to know to fly the airplane. First thing you need to know is that to land the airplane, by the way, to take off with the airplane, you need flaps. Flaps are surfaces in the wings that makes the wings bigger, and in this way gives more, how to say that word in English, gives more I don't know how to say that word in English, but it makes easier for the airplane to fly in low speed. So because to take off you are in a low speed, you need bigger wings. So to have bigger wings, you need flaps. Flaps are those surfaces. So this is our flaps. Once you pull it, once you push the flaps, then this guy right here, once you pull it, you push it, you will have bigger wings. So to do that, you only need to press the key 2 in your keyboard. So press the key 2, and then you have 1 degrees of flaps. If you press it again, you have more degrees of flaps. You will have 5 degrees. If you press it once more, you have 10 degrees of flaps. Pressing it again, you will have 15 degrees of flaps. Pressing again, 55 degrees of flaps. It is shown here in this thing here, in this clock here. Then you have 15 degrees of flaps here. If you press it again, the flaps will go to 25 degrees. Then 25 degrees is enough for taking off. 25 degrees of flaps, it's enough for take off your airplane. So I'll show you guys from the outside the flaps. So the flaps are these guys here. They make the wings bigger, so it's easier for the airplane to land, to take off and to land as well in low speeds, because the airplane needs to take off and to land in low speed. So that's why we use flaps. Alright, once you set your flaps for 25 degrees, you will set your autopilot. So this is our autopilot. All these things here, all these switches here on the top part of your cockpit are your autopilot. They are not so difficult to use. So to use them, I'll show you guys here what each one of they do. So this guy here, he controls the speed, the airspeed. So the speed in aviation, it's not kilometers, not even miles. In aviation, your speed is going to be knots, K-N-O-T-S, knots. So an airplane flies at the speed of usually 280 knots. 280 knots is going to be our speed. This in kilometers is more or less, I don't know, 600 kilometers per hour. So for taking off, you can set a 280 knots. For landing, you will land at the speed of 140 knots. 140 knots for landing, and for cruise speed, 280 knots. At the altitude of cruise altitude, you can fly faster. You could fly more or less like cruise altitude. You could fly more or less like 350 knots. 350 knots, which is more or less like 1,000 kilometers per hour, or 900 kilometers per hour. So that's our cruise altitude, but in this case, our flight will be really short. So because we have this short flight, we will not fly in a very fast speed. We will fly only 280 knots in order not to damage the airplane. So, because if you fly too fast, you can damage the airplane. The air could cause this damage to the airplane. The density of the air could really damage the airplane. So that's why you cannot go over speed. You cannot fly faster than the airplane support or takes. I don't know how to say that. You cannot fly faster than the airplane indoor. I think that's how I could say that in English. That's our speed in knots. So we're gonna fly 208 knots. Remember, you are not turning your autopilot when you are on ground. You only turn your autopilot on after you take off. But you can set your autopilot before you take off. You can change the airspeed, but it's not on. It's not working yet. It will only start to work after you turn on your main switch on the autopilot. So this is the main switch on the autopilot. The autopilot will only start to work after you turn it on. But for now it's off, so you can change things on your autopilot and no problem. So now we're gonna switch the altitude. We're gonna fly at 2,000 feet because, as I told you before, this is going to be a very short flight. So usually the airplanes, they fly at the altitude of 40,000 feet, depending on the flight. If it's a long flight, easily 40,000 feet. 40,000 feet. Sometimes 43,000 feet. It depends about the wind direction. If the wind direction in 40,000 feet is against you, you could go higher to 43,000 feet, and then in that altitude the wind is helping you in the same direction that you are flying. But then the wind could change and go against you once more, and then you have to go down to 40,000 feet, or even lower to, for example, 38,000 feet. It depends a lot on the wind direction. But in this case, because we have this very short flight, our altitude is going to be 2,000 feet. In aviation, feet are the measure, are the kind of measure they use. So feet, not meters. 2,000 feet is something good for you to get used to aviation kind of measurements. So you always have to set your speed and your altitude for now. And then you could also, after we take off, we're going to talk about this vertical speed. Vertical speed is the speed in which you goes up and goes down. For example, we are going to go up 1,200 feet per minute. That's going to be our climb speed. Vertical speed, climb speed are the same. So vertical speed 1,200 feet per minute. That's the speed we are going to climb to the airplane in direction to the sky. Alright, that's it. So now you have flaps for 25 degrees, and then you have here the parking brake. You have to release the parking brake in order to move. So here you just click on it and you will release it. Okay, now you have your parking brake released. Here you have flaps, 25 degrees of flaps, and you have your autopilot set. You have your speed set and your altitude set as well. And it's important to set the autopilot while in ground, because after you take off, you will be too busy you will have no time to set your autopilot. So it's good to set it on the ground. Okay, now let's create our flight plan. How the autopilot will know where the airplane needs to go. How the autopilot will know the direction the airplane needs to go. He will know it because you will create a flight plan on your FMC computer. This is our FMC computer. So in here you will create a flight plan. You will basically create a path for the airplane to follow. So to do that, you will click here on here RTE, the second switch, I think. You click in here, and then here we can see active flight plan. So the origin, you will switch it. You will type an origin. To do that, you go on here, and this is the clear button. You clear. You notice that here is just now it's empty. It's a blank space now. And then we will type the ID of your origin airport. Remember, we talked about this earlier. So I told you to take a note, to write down your ID of your origin airport and your airport of departure and your destination airport. You need to know both IDs. My origin airport, it has the ID EGLC, I guess. I don't remember. Let me see on the map. To see the map, you only have to click. You have to press the key N on your keyboard. So we are in the airport EGLL. That's our departure airport, EGLL. So that's our departure airport, EGLL. After you type it, you only have to click in here, in this button. I need to know how to say this word in English. Button. I think that's button, but I'm not sure. So let me see on the Google Translate how to say that. I'm not sure if you guys say button in English.
Button.
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 Button. Button.
I'm sorry if I'm saying this incorrectly, but I think that's button. So you will only have after you type it on your FMC computer, you press this button here, EGLL. It's our origin airport ID. Our origin airport ID, EGLL, right here. And our destination airport is going to be the airport with the ID EGLC. So that's our destination airport, EGLC. And then you press this button here, by the side of destination. So now we just created a path for the airplane to follow. If you take a look on this screen here, you will notice that this white line didn't exist before we created that flight plan. But once we create the flight plan, then appeared this white line which is basically the path in which the airplane will follow. So, the 20 here means the range. So it means that this screen is showing a range of 20 nautical miles. 20 nautical miles in both directions, up and vertical and horizontal directions. 20 nautical miles. So we are 20 nautical miles away from our destination. So this is another kind of measurement that aviation uses, which is nautical miles. So it's good to get used to those kind of measurements. Do not keep converting measurements like knots into speed, knots into kilometers or miles, neither feet into meters, nor nautical miles into kilometers or miles. Do not convert. Just get used to your aviation measurements. So now we have our flight plan set on the FMC computer. We have our autopilot set. We have flaps, and our parking brake is released. You know, if you will, you can turn on the outside lights on. So turn on the outside lights in here. The wing lights, the tail lights, and all those lights, you can turn them on. Just something annoying in this flight simulator is that when you click on the center of your screen, you start to move the yoke. I'm not sure if this is a yoke. Let me see. Joystick, airplane joystick.
Airplane joystick.
Airplane yoke. Okay, yoke, that's okay. So if you click on the center of your screen, you start to control the yoke. And that's really annoying because if you are, for example, doing something in the autopilot, changing something here, and for an accident you click on this center, then the airplane starts to turn to the left or turn to the right, or it goes up or it goes down instantly, and then you have no time to correct it, and you end up correcting the airplane or stalling the airplane. It's really annoying. So always remember to keep this symbol here, this plus symbol in the center. Don't click around it. Click far away from it. If you want to change something in your autopilot, maintain the plus symbol up there, and then maintain the autopilot on the bottom part of your screen. Not to click for an accident, not to click on the center and then start to control the yoke, and then it will be catastrophic. I don't know how to say that in English as well. Okay, that's everything you need to know before takeoff. Now let's take off. To do that, you will have to press the key F2 on your keyboard. F2 is to increase the throttle. The throttle. You will increase the engine power by pressing the F2 key. This is our throttle, speed throttle. This is where you accelerate your airplane. You give power to your airplane to fly. So press F2. You can press it to the end of all the way to the end, and then the airplane will start to move. And then you click on the center of your screen, and you will start to control the airplane. You will start to control the yoke. They are really sensible. They are really sensible. I tried to change it, but it's not possible in this flight simulator. So 140 knots is the speed in which we call V1 speed, the speed in which you will pull the yoke, and then the airplane will start to fly. Now 140 knots, pull.
PCAP alert.
Pull the 140 knots, you pull the yoke, the airplane starts to climb. So positive rate, and then you set your gear up, and then you will start to remove your flaps, because flaps are only used in takeoff and landing. So press the key 1 for removing your flaps. You need to remove all of your flaps levels.
Sync rate, sync rate, sync rate, sync rate, sync rate. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up.
So as you can see, it's not so easy to fly an airplane. So now we are going to turn on the autopilot. But to do that, I will reduce the speed because we are really close to the airport. So let me reduce the speed to 110 knots. And then we're going to turn on the autopilot. To turn on the autopilot, you need to turn on the flight director, this guy here. Turn on the flight director in the opposite side, turn it on, and then you turn on the autopilot, this button here. Alright, now the autopilot is on. And then you need to turn on the other things like the auto throttle. To do that, you turn this guy on, and then you turn the speed on. Now we will turn latitude on, and the vertical speed on as well. It's not, of course, you need to turn the L knob as well. This is the switch that will make the airplane follow your path to your destination. So L knob is really important to turn it on. Now that L knob is on, the airplane starts to follow the path created in the flight plan in the FMC computer. Okay, now the airplane is following the path we created here that leads to our destination airport. And then you press the... Alright, now the airplane is following the path that leads to our destination. And in here you can make sure that LNAV is on, altitude hold is on, and the speed auto throttle is on. So these three guys, they together they make the autopilot. So the autopilot is basically the autopilot is controlling the speed in knots, the altitude, and the direction in which the airplane flies. Now you can press the key M on your keyboard, and here shows you the direction of your airplane are flying. So now we're flying in direction of our runway, our destination runway, which is this one here. Now 111.15 is our ILS frequency. So you tune to nav 1. It means that the frequency that comes from the antennas in the runway are coming now to the airplane, are tuned to the airplane, and then you make sure they are tuned in here. These antenna signals, they will tell the airplane whether it should be higher, lower, more to the left or more to the right, in order to line up with the runway. So you turn it on here, nav 1, 111.15. Okay, we have the localizer. We call those antennas localizer and glide slope. It's two different antennas. Glide slope antenna will give signals to the airplane that tells the airplane it should be higher or lower. Localizer antenna will give signals to the airplane that tells the airplane whether it should be more to the left or more to the right. Okay, we are getting closer to our destination. Now let me switch the heading. Turn off the LNAV and turn on the heading in order to line up with the runway. Now I will decrease the speed because we are getting really close to the runway. Now remember I told you 140 knots, it's our 140 knots, it's our landing speed. So I just set 140 knots here because we are going to land. And then we need flaps. Remember, the airplane needs bigger wings to fly in a slow speed. So flaps as well, because we are going to fly really low, really slow. And remember I told you about the localizer and the glide slope antennas. So now it's time to turn them on. To do that, you turn off your LNAV or heading and turn on localizer. Localizer will tune to the ILS frequency, instrument landing system frequency, which is the antennas that gives glide slope and localizer signal. And these antenna signals will be shown here in the screen, in the display. These signs here. This sign is the glide slope sign. It shows whether we should be higher or lower. And this sign here shows the localizer sign. It shows whether we should be more to the left or more to the right. When it's lined up in the center, it means we should be. When it's in the left, it means we should be more to the right. When it's in the right, it means we should be more to the left. When it's in the center, it means we are aligned with the runway. In the case of the glide slope sign, when it's up here, it means that we should be higher. But no problem, because we are now going to 140 knots. When the glide slope sign starts to descend and line up with the horizon line here, it's time for us to turn off the altitude and turn on the approach here. Remember I told you about the annoying thing? That's something annoying, really. Okay, now we have glide slope, and now we have the glide slope signal that comes from the antennas in the runway and tells us whether we should be higher or lower. We have the localizer signal that tells us whether we should be more to the left or more to the right. And now we have to get the gear down. To do that, you can press the key G on your keyboard. Now we have the gear down, and we are going to perform a ILS approach and landing, which is a short for instrument landing system. Now the airplane are going down, following the signal that comes from the antennas that are telling the airplane whether it should be higher, lower, more to the left, more to the right. And the speed we control here in the autopilot, we control it manually. Now I switch it for 130 knots, which is going to be our landing speed. Alright, Just before we touch the ground, we're going to turn off the autopilot and land it manually.
200.
Okay, we are in a good speed. Now,
100.
turn off the autopilot
Sync
and
rate,
land
sync
manually.
rate, sync
20,
rate.
10.
Now, reverse and brakes. Alright, that's how to land in an airplane using ILS, instrument landing system. And it's not so difficult. I think it was easier for you guys to see how I did it. If it wasn't, I'm sorry guys. I'm trying to show you guys now the replay. Not so hard landing, it was a smooth landing. Not too bad, wasn't it? Not too bad. It wasn't so bad. It was a good land. It wasn't so smooth, it wasn't butter, but it was smooth. It was okay, good landing, wasn't so bad. That's it guys, thanks for watching. Remember, for your approach, take a look on the map. in order to line up with your runway. You need to line up with your runway before turn on the localizer switch, because if you turn on the localizer switch and you are not in the same direction of your runway, it would be not useful. So first of all, you line up with your runway using the map, and then when you are getting closer to the runway, when you are more or less like 25 nautical miles away from your runway, you turn on the localizer. And when you see the glide slope sign going down and lining up with the horizon line in your display, you turn on the approach switch, and then the airplane will follow the glide slope and the localizer signals that comes from the antennas. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope this video was useful.